Before we get started here, if you saw Saturday's Game Break on the Truth of Bob Saget and commented clickbait, don't. As a matter of fact, one person commented that I clickbait. Like, what's the truth? Let me pull this up here. His and His Alone 2019 commented, so what's the truth about Bob Saget? Yes, do give me a bread with your clickbait. What the hell? Do you think I'm clickbaiting you? No. For the past 5 years of this show, I have done nothing but giving you help, like giving you the facts, going beyond the headlines, and giving you my take. And surely when I see something like this, that is very, very offensive. And so His and His Alone 2019, if you're watching this, I don't clickbait. And this is what I said to you. I said the truth is that Bob could have hit his head at the hotel or hit his head at the car. Well, we had to wait and see. And I said, this is not clickbait. I'm giving you what the media told us. And I'm insulted. This show is not clickbait. My show gives us facts. Gives facts. This show is about taking responsibility for your actions. And it's also about learning from your mistakes. In the case of COVID here, we have to learn from our mistakes. So with that being said, 6.53 million cases with 83,667 in the state of Texas. 90,430 with over 1,433. 7.9 positive tests in the 7-day average from the 15th. 82,756 positive tests. 1,047,542 tests have been taken. Hospitalizations in the 7-day average from February 19th. 65,000 people have been hospitalized with over 13,000 people in ICU. Vaccinations. 70.6% have had at least one dose, with 59.7%. That's 20.4% who had at least one dose, and 17.3% who've been fully vaccinated. And the doses would have been given in the United States, 550 million, with 214 million Americans fully vaccinated. And 64.9% of the population has been fully vaccinated. Texas, 44.1 million doses, 17.3 million, and 59.7% of the population. California is the highest, with 71 million doses given, 27.7 million vaccinated, and about 70.1% of the population has been fully vaccinated. But the lowest has to be American Samoa, with 85,000 doses given, with over 38,000 people fully vaccinated, and 69.4%. The highest ever is in Vermont, with 80% vaccinated. Let me check. Yeah, it is Vermont. I don't clickbait you with COVID. I give you the facts and my take. Don't sit around here and say I'm clickbaiting you. That's very offensive. But in the meantime, past couple of years, since COVID started, since the pandemic, I've been giving you guys a lot of tips. And I suggest you follow these tips and tell it to your kids. Make sure that you wear your mask. Very, very important you wear this. It is a very important tool for you to use for your face. Very important. It has to be worn like this. It can't be worn like this nor like this. N95s are the best weapon for Omicron. Social distance. 6 feet. You got Lysol, Clorox, great weapon. If you have COVID, make sure you quarantine for 5 days. After the 5th day, you need to make sure you test negative. And this is probably the big one. Wash your hands. to kill the spread of germs. Antibacterial soap, hot water, 20 seconds, dry your hands. If you're in a restaurant, it's the same thing. If you're running transportation, it's basically the same thing. They have hand sanitizer, they got masks. If you're in school, make sure you disinfect your area. Make sure you follow the proper safety protocols. If you're under 2, no masks. If you have COVID, by all means, get yourself vaccinated. If it's against your religion, don't take it. If you have medical issues, then you can't take the vaccine. If you have a medical condition, you gotta let people know beforehand. That way they'll understand, like, oh, he can't do this because of his religion or medical condition. This, that. Let's all try to be safe as we end this thing. Because together, we can make a difference. All right. Give me 1 second here, then we'll go on a break. Let's take a break here. Next, do you know if you're being served lobster or cheap fish? We did some tests to find out. And then later, we're going to see if you got some cheaper fish with some restaurants serve grouper. And then we're also going to we're going to tell you some tips about what you never thought about eating pizza with some injury statistics. And then later, buffet fights about crab legs. And you're going to meet a man who's been hunting down oil, the stuff that makes you cook french fries and fried chicken and tastes good but very expensive. Stay with us. Do you get the feeling that you may be served lobster? I mean, you think lobster is lobster. But what if you realize that lobster isn't lobster? In fact, it's just fish. Well, Inside Edition 6 years ago did a test. And what was being found at 6 years couldn't surprise any single one of you who ever tried red lobster or any other type of lobster. Here's your investigative correspondent, Lisa Guerrero. And before we get into this, I love lobster. I love all types of seafood, but DNA testing can be what you get. Here's Lisa Guerrero.
Celebrity chef and author Rocco DiSpirito loves lobster.
Lobster roll, the iconic American dish, should be all lobster.
You'd think what he's saying should be obvious. You order lobster, you get lobster, right? Not always. We tried out lobster dishes of every conceivable kind at 28 restaurants around the country. It may shock you to learn that in 35% of our samples, instead of lobster, we found cheap fish substitutes. At Red Lobster, the largest seafood chain in America, we tested the lobster bisque from 3 locations and scooped out the meat. Then we sent it off to a lab.
We do look at it carefully, but then the final answer is done by DNA analysis.
According to the lab, the lobster in one sample was actually Langostino. 2 others had a combination of Langostino and lobster. So what is Langostino? This is a Langostino, and it looks nothing like a lobster. As a matter of fact, it's more closely related to the hermit crab and costs about half as much as lobster does per pound. At the world-famous Nathan's in Coney Island, Brooklyn, the lobster salad sandwich we tested came back as this guy, whiting, a much cheaper fish that certainly doesn't look like lobster. Rocco DiSpirito says restaurants are under pressure to keep costs down, but that's still no excuse.
If you say seafood roll, then it's okay that you put some of
But
this
you
in
would call
there.
it seafood roll.
Exactly.
Not lobster roll.
I would make the distinction, or you could say lobster and seafood roll. You definitely want your customers to know.
I'm Lisa Guerrero with Inside Edition. At this restaurant called Get Hooked outside Tampa, the lobster in their lobster roll also came back as whiting.
Yes, people, I did not purposely rip the public off like
The owner says he makes his lobster rolls with a frozen mixture called Lobster Sensations that he buys from an outside vendor. It has lobster, but it's also filled with other cheaper fish like whiting and pollock. The issue is, on the menu, it doesn't say that there's any other fish except lobster in your lobster roll.
Okay, if you want to get technical, yes, you're absolutely right.
Manhattan's Little Italy is the go-to neighborhood for great seafood, but we wondered what was in the lobster ravioli. At Sophia's, our lab found no lobster, just, are you ready for this? Cheese. I'm Lisa Guerrero with Inside Edition. Hello? Guess he didn't want to talk to us about his lobster ravioli. And what about Soup Man? That's the place made famous in the Seinfeld Soup Nazi episode.
No soup for you.
No soup for you.
It's supposed to have the best soup in New York City. Guess what? Our test showed that the lobster bisque was loaded with the real thing, lobster.
No soup for you.
We spoke to actor Larry Thomas, who played the so-called soup Nazi.
Our soup can only be the best if we have the right real ingredients.
He's got that right.
Are you kidding me? That is so good.
Isn't it?
Nothing beats the real thing.
Exactly.
Now, Red Lobster told us their lobster bisque can contain meat from Maine lobster, Langostino lobster, or a combination of both. As for Nathan's, they told us the main ingredient in their lobster salad is, in fact, lobster, but that it does include a healthy mix of lobster, pollock, and whiting. Experts say DNA testing is the only way to know for sure if you're getting real lobster, but they say if your meal is priced too low, that could be a red flag.
Just try to ask some questions next time, so that way you'll never know if you're getting the real thing. Unlike adulterated apple juice. I love apple juice. I loved it. I love apple juice. I loved it from the moment since my mama gave it to me. If you watched the 2020 segment from March 1st, 1996 and saw Brian Ross's investigation, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. Adulterated apple juice, non-real vanilla extract, cooking wine that doesn't have any wine in it, just water and sugar, maple syrup that doesn't have anything but beet sugar. You would know exactly what I'm talking about. You guys want to see it? Check up top. But, which brings us back to the fish. Going back to seafood, have you ever wondered what type of fish you may get? Well, here again is Lisa Guerrero. Because if you get the right fish, you get the right fish, whether it be wine or something else. So once again, here's Lisa Guerrero.
The American Heart Association recommends everyone eat fish at least twice a week. But how do you know the fish you're ordering at the restaurant is the fish you're getting? Truth is, you don't. And as Lisa Guerrero discovered on our Inside Edition fish test, you just might not be getting what you're paying for.
Americans love fish.
I love fish. Fish is my favorite meal.
When I look at the menu, seafood is like my go-to. It's my first choice.
But Inside Edition found you could be the victim of a fish switcheroo. How is it possible for one type of fish to be switched to another type of fish? Alexandra Papetis is the executive chef at Kalari Taverna in New York City and says it can easily happen in some restaurants.
It's really people just capitalizing on people not really having a full knowledge base about fish. Even though these look very different right now when they're sitting here, they're not going to look as different once we cook them.
So would we be a victim of a fish switch? To find out, we did some testing. First, we visited 22 restaurants in Tampa and Atlanta.
The grouper sandwich.
And ordered cod, grouper, and catfish.
Scooping out the crunchy grouper.
We then packed the fish up and sent samples off to a lab for DNA testing. Now get this, 33% of the restaurants in Atlanta gave us a cheaper fish than the one we ordered. At Noodles Restaurant, we ordered fried grouper, a local favorite. But what we really got, according to the lab, was an Asian farmed fish called swai. Grouper goes for $20 a pound, while swai costs about $3 a pound. So what the heck is swai? Swai comes mainly from Vietnam, specifically the Mekong Delta, not the cleanest water in the world. This video also shows swai, farmed in overcrowded fish ponds. In a statement to Inside Edition, a fish industry spokesman insists the fish are some of the safest seafood you can eat, and it's a healthy, affordable fish, period. We went back to Noodles, the place where we got the cheap swai instead of grouper. We found out that instead of grouper, it was actually a cheaper farmed fish from Asia. How can you explain that? Guess you didn't want to tell me. At Pascal's restaurant, we ordered catfish, but according to the lab, once again, we got swai. How do you think that happened?
I had no idea. I apologize. I have no idea. I have to find out how that happened.
At Copeland's, it was the same story. Are you substituting a cheaper fish for your catfish here?
Like I said, I can't comment on that. I'll have to give it my marketing department, my general manager.
Larry Olmsted, author of Real Food, Fake Food, says food substitutions is a dirty secret in the restaurant industry.
Anytime you have a food that consumers can't readily identify with their eye, that you can substitute something cheaper for and get away with it, people are going to do that.
All 10 of the restaurants we visited in Tampa gave us the fish we ordered.
Which is great. So if you don't know what type of fish you get, again, a DNA test could help. Don't go away. When we return, are you getting the tuna in your tuna smelt from Subway? Last year, a lawsuit was filed at Subway saying, I didn't get tuna. We'll give you that test and go into the lawsuit when we come back. Stay with us. Last year, there was a lawsuit that was filed at a Subway because the customer said there wasn't any tuna in the tuna sandwich at Subway. So what could be wrong? Well, Inside Edition last year gave tested that tuna, and what happened may surprise you. I love Subway. Never had that tuna melt, but my mom did. Very good. Here again, Melissa Guerrero.
You order at a fast food place, you assume you're getting what you asked for. Well, 2 customers at Subway say there wasn't tuna in their tuna sandwich, and they are suing the sandwich shop. So we did our own test to see what's between the bread.
It's the largest sandwich maker in the USA.
Subway, eat fresh.
An estimated 6 million sandwiches a day. One of the chain's most popular sandwiches is tuna, and lately it's been getting a lot of attention.
Subway fighting back this morning against claims that its tuna sandwiches don't actually have any tuna.
Subway's tuna salad sub doesn't actually have tuna or fish in it.
In a startling lawsuit, 2 customers in California claim that the tuna sandwich does not contain tuna or have any ingredient that constitutes tuna. No tuna in the tuna? Subway customers coast to coast want to know what's going on.
That's insane. I mean, no tuna in a tuna fish sandwich? That's odd.
How could you not have tuna in tuna?
Subway insists 100% wild-caught tuna, 100% delicious.
So what's going on here? Is there tuna in Subway's tuna sandwiches? We decided to find out for ourselves.
We bought the tuna at 3 Subway locations in Queens, New York. When we asked an employee about the tuna controversy, he brought out the packaging.
Where does it say tuna?
And there, in black and white, it says the ingredients are tuna, water, and salt. But we didn't stop there. Our next step was sending the samples to Applied Food Technologies. The lab, based in Florida, specializes in DNA testing of fish.
Did the tuna in the tuna sandwiches that we tested actually contain tuna?
Yes, they did.
They did.
Yes, we confirmed that tuna was definitely in all 3 samples we received.
So there it is. Based on our test, we found when you buy tuna at Subway, you're getting tuna.
There's actually tuna in Subway tuna sandwiches.
That's awesome.
I'm glad.
Subway says says the tuna they use is 100% real and that there is simply no truth to the allegations in that lawsuit.
Which is good. So why sue? You know it's a tuna fish sandwich when it is freaking tuna. Which brings us to the crab legs. You ever went to a seafood buffet and you see people fighting on those crazy crab legs? Hey, give me those crab legs. That's why those fights are happening. Where again, Lisa Guerrero.
Crab legs are usually the priciest item at those all-you-can-eat buffets, and people who love them don't
So, what's going
mess
on?
around.
Here's
Lisa Guerrero takes a look at the chaos that sometimes erupts when crab legs get put on the counter.
Here you go. It's a feeding frenzy at the buffet. When the crab legs come out, it's everyone for themselves. And they're gone in seconds. This customer barges into the kitchen to demand more crab legs. Sometimes it can get violent, like here at a buffet in New York City. And in Alabama, this woman was charged with assaulting an elderly man when police say a fight broke out over crab legs. The man suffered a cut to his head.
The mayhem caused by these crab legs is alarming. So now some restaurants are carefully dishing them out in order to cut down on the chaos.
It's really sad.
Yes!
To fight over something like that.
Rocky Abdullah owns Le Grand Buffet in New Jersey. He says the star of his buffet is undoubtedly these guys, and the customers can't get enough of them.
What have you done here at your restaurant to control people getting violent over crab legs?
I just decided to move him behind the counter and give two to everybody, so you make everybody happy.
But just for us, Rocky showed how fast the crabs go when they're put on the buffet. In 42 seconds, the legs are gone, and that's after only 3 customers.
Because then one person takes everything.
Right.
And everybody start fighting about it.
But most buffets offer self-serve crab legs. At this one in Queens, New York, as soon as the crabs are brought out, this guy is all over it. He scoops up the crab legs, then his buddy joins in to take more.
Gonna leave any for anybody else?
Give me a break.
All right, so 2 guys took almost all the crab legs.
And at this buffet a few miles away, watch these 2 guys go. A tray of crab legs is gone in seconds.
We go crazy for crab legs. It's like a crab leg war out here.
Like Lord of the Rings. Aragorn is the one with the sword, and the crab legs are the orcs. Alright. I'll be back in a moment with a final thing about the cooking oil thieves. It's the stuff that makes you fried chicken and french fries, and I work at McDonald's and I know what I'm talking about. But how would you feel if you knew that the grease pool, that grease could be liquid gold? Once again, here's Lisa Guerrero.
It might be the most bizarre crime ever.
The hose is in the container.
Thieves stealing, of all things, used cooking oil.
Cooking oil is very valuable. I can't say enough how important it is.
These Chicagoland restaurant owners say they had no idea the grease that makes their Bona fries and Brown's famous fried chicken so tasty is actually liquid gold for grease thieves.
I didn't think the value was that great that somebody would come and steal it.
I would have never have thought that there were people out there stealing grease from restaurants.
Authorities say organized crime rings have made millions pumping used cooking oil out of special grease bins like these located behind most restaurants.
Wow. Look at that loaded grease.
The crime was even spoofed in a Simpsons episode.
Hey, you're taking our grease! It's our grease now. We run the grease racket in this town.
But now the thieves stealing grease across the country have a target on their backs.
They call us the grease police.
Frank Scoggins used to bust bad guys as a Texas cop.
And we're just looking for the suspects.
Now retired, he leads a special task force nicknamed the Grease Police.
There were so many thieves in some areas, it's just impossible to secure these lids.
He and his team were hired by Darling Ingredients after tons of used cooking oil they refine and resell was getting hijacked from their grease pins across the country.
He's into a container. He's putting a hose in it. That's going to be ours.
Inside Edition investigative producer Charlie McElravy was invited along to see the Grease Police in action.
This happens lightning fast.
Yeah, he came in here. He wasn't here just a few minutes. and he's skimming, so he's getting straight oil. So he pumped about 6 inches.
We picked up the trail of this alleged grease thief operating outside Chicago in broad daylight.
He's prying up the edge. He's putting a hose in it.
We tailed him as he made stop after stop to suck up grease.
I'm right behind him, gonna get on him, and I'm gonna pull back.
His route took him some 150 miles all the way from Chicago to Holland, Michigan.
This looks like this is about the 8th container he's hit today.
We were waiting for him when he walked out of this gas station.
Excuse me, sir. We're with Inside Edition. Have you been stealing grease all day long?
No.
No?
No.
We've been following you in your truck as you've gone behind restaurant after restaurant and are pumping out grease.
He didn't have much to say.
Sir, are you just a grease pirate going around stealing grease from people?
No, sir.
So the grease police called in the real police. They stopped his truck and put him in cuffs. Altogether, Scoggins says he allegedly stole nearly 500 gallons of grease, valued at almost $1,000.
I want the thieves to know that if you think you're going to come out and steal cooking oil, we're coming after you, and we're going to get you.
That alleged thief bonded out of jail, but now there's an active warrant for his arrest because police say he failed to show up for a court hearing.
Wow. So make sure you don't steal any cooking oil and don't get the grease police involved. Well, that's it. Well, coming up on Wednesday, I'll look at some of the best and worst school lunch stories an Inside Edition has posted and why you shouldn't eat more than 6 fries a serving. Plus, how clean are your saucered ice cream machines? We'll give you the answer. And on Friday, I'll look at the food myths, especially those tunas, those tuna melts, and the crab legs. That's all this week. That's all for this edition of Give Me a Break Monday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Wednesday. For all of us here at YouTube, this is not clickbait. Have a good night.